Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to begin the conversations. And let's start with a brief chat with the MCE for Ledzokuku Municipal Assembly. That's LECMA. In the studio with me this morning is Honorable Mordecai Kwashi. He was one of our own head of sales here until he moved away. Welcome aboard the AM show, sir. Thank you. You're welcome. How's the transition been from private sector to public office?
Challenging. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Very, very challenging, yes.
But you're enjoying yourself?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's one of the job is one of the roles in which you can make an impact, significant impact. You can change society, you can make things happen. You can stop bad things from happening, you can make good things happen. So it's a very good role to be in if you really want to serve, you want to make a change.
Okay.
Yes, I've enjoyed the time being an MC. Okay. Although I'm not looking forward to being an MC again.
You're running away.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the constituency, Ledzokuku Municipal Assembly. And as Ghana is gearing up for election 2024, it's one of the hottest places that people are looking for. I like to describe it as unpredictable, you know. How are we doing in that constituency so far?
We're doing good, but before I answer that, let me make a correction. The name is Ledzokuku Municipal Assembly. Krowa has been hived off now. So okay. Krowa is an assembly of its own. And so Ledzokuku now stands on its own. Okay. So we have Ledzokuku Municipal Assembly. It's no longer Ledzokuku Krowa Municipal Assembly.
Okay, so you're the MCE for Ledzokuku
Municipal Assembly. Yeah,
Municipal Assembly, okay.
Now, having said that, let me go to the campaign. The campaign is going well. I mean, this year was always going to be a tough campaign. So, yes, so I can say that given the circumstances, everything's fine.
In terms of the parliamentary campaign so far, there's obviously between the NDC and the NPP, Bernard Okoboy lost his seat in 2020. Now it's Benjamin in the seat. Do you think that they're both appealing to the people enough? What do you think we will be surprised? I think is the question I want to ask, because a lot of people appeared to be surprised in 2020 when Okoboy did not win his seat. Do you think there are any surprises that will be sprung on us this year?
Yes, I think this year, I don't think it's a surprise though. This year, I think many people know and accept that Dr. Okoboy is likely to win the election. This is not to...
What are you inferring that from?
Well, I mean, from the general vibe. Look, I've been in elections for a long time. If you're going to win an election, you can tell from the vibe around. And the vibe around Dr. Okoboy is good. I mean, he's somebody who has clearly exhibited a passion for development. He's a very humble person, accessible to all people, accessible to the young people. He's a very focused person. And somebody who, when he wants to make things happen, he's focused and persistent in ensuring that he gets the development that he needs for his people. So these are some of the reasons why I'm sure that come 7 December, the good citizens of Ledzokuku would reward him, you know, by asking him to represent them.
Okay. That's your opinion of the
Absolutely
situation.
My opinion.
So in terms of the presidential campaign so far, there have been a lot of activities. The NDC and NPP both have had events, rallies, in Teshi especially, and I've witnessed some of them. So how are we doing on that front as well?
Yes, we're doing fine. It's important to understand that in the presidential, our candidate is the underdog in the race. Every poll has put him behind. So we are working hard to catch up and overtake. That is what we're doing now. So it's a lot of work going on.
You said the underdog?
Yes, Dr. Bapamia is clearly there.
That's an interesting way to describe him, as an underdog.
Oh yes, he's the underdog. This election is interesting because not only is he the underdog, Dr. Bapamia is also the candidate of change and transformation. You would have thought that normally in an election, especially an 8-year election cycle, typically the opposition candidate is the candidate of change. And the incumbent, the candidate from the incumbent party, tends to be the candidate of continuity. But here we have a situation where the candidate of the ruling party is rather the candidate of transformation and change. And the opposing candidate is rather the candidate who is resetting to a past state of affairs that was supposedly okay. This election really is a choice between the past and the future, strangely. And the incumbent, the candidate of incumbent party rather is now looking like the candidate of change because the bold solutions he's talking about. And that is one of the things that every time I go campaigning, and if you give him some time, I'd give you a slightly different perspective.
Before you get to that slightly different perspective, this narrative almost suggests that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is not an integral part of this current administration, and he's the one now proposing bold solutions for the future. He's coming for a change, an underdog. I still find it very interesting that you describe him as that.
Yes.
But he's been part of this administration for nearly 8 years now.
Yes.
So we cannot paint him as though he's someone who's just emerged
Absolutely.
with a new vision and a new way of, or new approach to solving the problems that we have in the country.
Yes, I understand your point of view.
Yeah.
But this is what I'll say to that. He's an integral part of this government. But he's a transition person. You can akin, and I hope you don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but in the Bible, for instance, you would find Jesus Christ. He's actually an Old Testament figure. But because the New Testament only came into being after he died and resurrected and all of that. That's when the New Testament came. But although he's an Old Testament, Jesus as a human being is an Old Testament figure. He ushered in a completely new era. I hope you understand. He was a teacher, was a rabbi, was a healer. But he actually introduced the completely new way of looking at the relationship between God and man. New. And that, in a sense, to some extent, is where Bawumia stands now. He's part of a government that has done a lot of basic things, a lot of social interventions, a lot of humanitarian things to ensure that we leave nobody behind and we carry everybody along, free education, all of that. Now he's moving us into a new era. And it is critically important that we understand what the new era is. And can I go in there now?
Yes, let me share your perspective with me, and then we can proceed.
Okay, the critical challenge, that's my view. The critical challenge facing us as a nation today is the fact that we are in our 17th IMF program in 67 years. We go to IMF almost automatically. Every 4 to 5 years, we go back to IMF. This happens whether it's a military government, whether it's a civilian government, whether it's an MPP, whether it's NDC. It almost happens irrespective of the regime. That leads me to conclude that it's a systemic thing. It's a systemic problem. And it is true, it's a systemic problem. The reason we've been unable, we keep going back, is that we run our government on a debt. We borrow to run the government. We've never been able to raise enough taxes to properly fund the government. We've never been able to raise enough taxes to fund the government. That's why the government has to borrow to supplement whatever we pay. And it borrows and keeps borrowing. After a while, the debt gets too big relative to the economic production that we pay for it. And so now the taxes are no longer enough to pay for the debt. Then we get into the situation we're in. We've done this 17 times. And that is the biggest challenge that faces the nation. And why I think that, and this is why I think that Dr. Bawumia as a candidate is exceptional. I think that he has found a way to break us out of this vicious cycle of debt.
What's that way?
That is the flat tax. Many of us haven't paid attention to it, given it as much attention as we should. But it is completely transformational. The concept, the idea, everything is transformational. Because of the flat tax, if indeed the flat tax can bring in the expected 23 billion that sits outside of the tax net, $23 billion sits outside of the tax net every year. If we can bring even a quarter of that in through the innovative flat tax, it absolutely changes everything.
So,
absolutely changes everything.
Mr. Kwashi, three things. First, I don't think we should be looking at just taxes as a way of generating revenue for the various development initiatives and activities that we need in this country. We should be looking at exports. We should be looking at self-sufficiency in terms of growing what we need and all that. Second point is, this person you're speaking about is the current vice president of this country. If flat tax rate is the solution, why are we here at this point, still struggling under his regime and waiting for him to come and liberate us from it? And then the third thing, I think you talked. So you respond to the first two, then I'll come back to you.
The first one was, your second one is the more interesting one. But if this is his government, if truly this idea is a game-changing idea, why is he waiting to implement it? Isn't that the question? Okay, let me explain to you that. Now, it is simple. The flat tax is an idea he brought this year. Now, for that flat tax to be workable, we have built over the years the digital infrastructure to make it happen. When we did the national identification, this is where we were heading. When we linked it to TIN numbers, this is where we were heading. When we did mobile money operability, this is where it was heading. When we linked mobile money to bank accounts, this is where we were.
You're saying it's just about timing
heading. No, so yes, it's just about time. We've now built the digital infrastructure that will allow such an innovative tax to be possible, which is why I think we should pay a second attention to him. Because the man, Dr. Bawumia, has been involved in Ghana's payment systems since 2004, long before he became a politician. He was involved in Ghana's payment system. In his book in 2010, he's written clearly in his book in 2010 that digitalization is the key to financial inclusion, which is what we need to widen the tax net and achieve the tax we need that we've never been able to achieve in 67 years. So really, this flat tax is a big game-changing thing. And I'll explain to you why it's a game-changing. The flat tax means we all pay lower tax and more of us pay. That's an ideal tax system.
And you're saying this is the solution to liberate us from the cycle of going back to the IMF?
And I'll explain why. When the government, if we're able to raise enough revenue with the flat tax as proposed, it means a number of things. It means the government doesn't have to borrow as much as it used to. So when government doesn't borrow, government leaves the financial market. We crowd in the private sector. Private sector gets access to more credit. Interest rates come down because the largest player, government, is no longer as active in the credit market as it used to. Interest rates come down. Not only that, because government is not borrowing, is not funding his social expenditure inflation with a debt. Inflation tends to also come down. Think of what I'm saying. It is this same flat tax that will give us the fiscal space for us to remove so-called nuisance taxes. It's the same flat tax that gives us fiscal space. The same flat tax gives us the fiscal space to also take away, to also bring port or the duties and so on down. So what this flat tax will do is increase incomes for those currently on payee, because your tax will be lower, so your take-home pay is going to be more. That's the first thing. Second thing, prices come down because taxes will be removed, duties are lowered, so prices. So first of all, you have more disposable income, and second of all, you have a lower price regime. This is what he's talking about. This impacts everybody. This is not for an exclusive group of people. This is the kind of economic change you need to actually kickstart your economy.
So, Kwasi, I agree that it's an interesting perspective on your views on Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and we do have to go. But before we go, I want to ask you, though, there are reports about these ride-hailing apps unable to operate in and around Ledzokuku, Teshinungwa especially, because of the security threats.
Yes.
What are you doing about it?
Yes.
Have this come to your attention?
Yes, it has. And the Municipal Security Council has discussed it. And although I can't tell you because of security reasons exactly what is being done, but a lot of undercover work is being done now to ensure that we bring this to an end.
Okay.
Yes.
And that there is Mr. Mordecai Kwashi, Ledzokuku Municipal Assembly, MCE. Thank you so much for joining us on the AM show this morning.
You're welcome.
And all that you say you don't want to continue in your office. We are hoping that you can do some. We are hoping to see you more in government.
Oh, absolutely.
You're speaking very well for the government.
Absolutely, yes. And I am sure that my government will remain in power in 2025. And that is Excellency Dr. Mahamudu. But inshallah will be the President of the Republic of Ghana.
All right. Thank you so much. And